Hi, and welcome to Reed's Audio Reading. I'm Reed, and I hope you enjoy my channel. Today I'll be reading the Greyhawk Castle Dungeon module EXE1 Dungeonland, specifically chapters 1 to 4. This module was written by Gary Gygax. This module, while originally conceived for and used in the Greyhawk Castle Dungeon complex, is such that it can be added to virtually any campaign. It has an EX designation to indicate that it is an extension of a regular dungeon level. In the case of this module, it is a far removed extension where all adventuring takes place in another plane of existence. That is quite unusual even for a typical AD&D universe. This particular scenario has been a consistent favorite with adventurers new to the overall Greyhawk campaign, and is presented here for the amusement and delights of jaded players everywhere. The module contains maps for an extensive level set both indoors and outdoors, keyed encounters, extensive DM notes, and details of many new monsters and treasure items. Can the most capable adventurers deal with the bizarre? Is their true element the harrowing dungeon or the wilderness? Or can they handle the unexpected in unique ways? Find out now. Dungeon Master's Preface. As will soon be apparent, this module is based entirely upon the superstition that somewhere in the proverbial multiverse of play there exists the very land where little Alice went in pursuit of a white rabbit, and where, in Beyond the Magic Mirror and soon to be released companion module to Dungeonland, the same worthy lass ventured to discover what awaited behind a mirror. Of course, both places are subtle, or not so subtle, altered for gaming, so there is a whole new world of weird and lovable friends for your adventurers to meet. A cute white rabbit, a talking cat, the droll walrus and carpenter in Beyond the Magic Mirror, and of course, the Duchess. When you insert this module into your campaign, do so without alerting the players. That is, they will not see a white rabbit and a rabbit hole anywhere, nor will they discover a looking glass to pass through. Conceal this module within the body of your game material. At a convenient point for you, not for the party, have them fall into a pit or have a passageway suddenly become a perpendicular shaft. Then have them descend ever so slowly into the front door of Dungeonland. If you'd rather have them enter from the other side, then some subterranean place might have a smoky wall through which the players will barely be able to see. Naturally, they will detect a room beyond, and when you entice them further, they'll discover it is a mirror image of the place they just left, and to which they can no longer return. Now that you understand what is going on, you know why there is no introduction for the players, no history or like explanation for them. You need to keep them in the dark as long as possible to have fun. Magic that will not work in this module. Although your players will not know it, quite a number of spells and magic items that use similar Dwemer will not function in the place they are about to visit. Of course, if they find some item that has a power listed below, then the magic will function because the Dwemer is native to the plane. Otherwise, be firm that the following magic will not function. Animal summoning, any level. Cacodemon. Call lightning. Call woodland beings. Chariot of Sustare. Conjure animals. Conjure elemental, any type. Control weather. Creeping doom. Dimension door. Fly. Gate. Levitate. Monster summoning, any level. Pass plant. Pass wall. Plant control. Plant door. Teleport. Transport via plants. Windwalk, X ray vision, and weather summoning. Chapter 1. Endless Shaft. You have been falling, falling endlessly, but suddenly it seems as if your falling is slowly, as if a featherfall spell has been cast over all of you. The shaft still goes down and down, but you are drifting gently now. After a few minutes, you detect a golden light far below, which, as you watch, comes nearer and nearer. It is the end of the shaft at last. With a gentle thump, you land, all in a heap atop a pile of twigs, brush, and leaves. No magic will work in the shaft, so any attempt to cast spells while falling down to the starting point of the adventure will simply burn the magic without purpose. However, if any party member has a lantern, he or she will note that miniature rooms line the walls. Each of these places appears much as if it were a museum exhibit depicting life typical of that led by the adventurers. There are numerous exhibits, each filled with various replicas of furniture and the like. If any players grab at these displays, he or she will be entitled to roll on the table below. Each adventurer may take items, each gets 4 attempts, but only those who are able to see by a light source. Infravision will not work. Get to take anything worthwhile. Note that all items are in miniature scale. Die roll and result. 1. Shield plus 1. 2. Chainmail plus 2. 3. Sword plus 1. 4. Axe plus 2. 5. Ring of Protection plus 3. 6. Bracers of Defense AC 4. 7. Potion of Extra Healing. 8. Wand of Paralyzation 1 only. 9. Staff of Striking 1 only. 10. Cloak of Elven Kind. And 11 to 12. Suit of Normal Clothing. Miniature items will neither grow nor shrink. They will be only useful in Chapter 3, The Tiny Garden. No magic will alter their size. When characters grow too large to use them, the worn items simply disappear, returning to their exhibit areas. This area is also the return point for parties who have begun at the end, worked through the middle, and arrived at this beginning. Not at all unnatural here, you know. When it is time for survivors to bid farewell to Dungeonland, they need merely to stand on the heap of rubbish at the bottom of the shaft and peer upwards. Whoever does so will be whisked up and away to wherever you desire. In most instances, I suggest that this destination be their lodging place, for the wonders of Dungeonland are typically a once in a lifetime adventure. Chapter 2, The Long Hall. First View. The DM should use illustration 2, First View, and read the following to the players. As you look around, you note that you are in a strange chamber, some 60 feet wide and 120 feet long. You can see its size easily because the polished wall panels reflect the light of the dozens of candles set in scones along the length and width of the place. You are confused by the strange fall, but it seems as though you are in the southern portion of the room. The walls are paneled in some sort of glowing wood. The reddish material is well cared for and polished to a lustrous finish that reflects the flame from the candles. 5 doors, made of the same wood, are on either side of the hall, and a pair of great double doors at its far end. Just a few feet from your vantage point atop the pile of rubbish, you note a small, finely crafted table, A on map. Upon its crystal top rests a metal object, a flagon of some sort, and a salver with an unleavened loaf atop it. Nothing else is visible except a small portal beyond the table. This doorway is about 1 feet tall and half as broad. It is closed by a door bound with metal. The ceiling overhead is arched and beamed. The rafters are some 15 feet above. The arch is another 10 feet above that. If at this point the party does not rivet their attention upon the table and the small doorway, their view of the area will be entirely different, and the DM should move to view 2, changed view of the long hall. The flagon and salver bear strange runes upon them. Read magic reveals that the former says drink me, and the latter eat me. Examination of the small door indicates it is securely locked, but there is a keyhole in it, and the metal instrument on the small table appears to be of the correct size to fit the door. Detect Magic will discover the whole area radiates a strong mixture of alteration, enchantment, and illusion. The flagon and loaf are strongly dwemered for alteration magic, while the small door combines alteration and enchantment. Each member of the party who drinks from the flagon will shrink to 1/10 normal size. Conversely, the loaf causes growth to 10 times normal size. However, there is only enough for each party member to receive one portion of each item. Of course, one character can test the effects of each and leave enough so that all members of the party may benefit from the magic. Both properties of diminution and growth are such that only living things are affected. All clothing, armor, and weapons will fall off and remain behind if the party chooses to pass into the area beyond the door. Small items gained in the descent are all that can be taken beyond the doorway. Items hidden beneath the rubbish pile, however, will be safe from harm. 2. The long hall changed view. You suddenly notice that the place is not as it seemed. You are in an immense hall, twice as large as you first thought. There is no rubbish heap, no table, and at the far end of the place you see four large doors. However, between you and these exits is a pool of water. A. The Pool of Tears. The brackish water reaches from wall to wall and covers about 100 feet of length of the hall. Strange creatures are swimming in the water, but they are 50 feet away and difficult to see well. Where you stand near the edge, the liquid appears to be only a few inches deep, but the floor slopes down towards the center of the pool. 10 feet from its edge, the water is 10 feet deep. It is 30 feet deep in the center. Visibility is 3 feet clearly, 6 feet dimly. B. Pool inhabitants: 1. Giant weasel, 1. Axe beak, 1. Giant badger, 1. Club neck, and 1. Giant owl. All of these creatures are swimming in the center of the pool. They will remain there until one or more persons cross to the other side. Then they will swim to Area C, see map, and exit the pool. It will take the creatures 3 rounds to come out of the water. They will then rush in a horde to attack on the fourth round, unless all intended opponents have already exited the area through the doors marked D. Characters will note that the water is buoyant, exceptionally so. It can be seen by observing the creatures in the middle of the pool or by experimentation. A character in normal plate mail can tread water and stay afloat. An unarmored person will sink only to about stomach height. Thus, it is relatively easy to cross the pool. While in the water, the assorted creatures will not attack, although a party swimming through them will find that the whole bunch will follow and keep up with them. Avoiding the group to either side has its own peril. 1 giant crocodile. This little crocodile waits quietly for prey to attempt to pass to the left or right of the swimming monsters at the center of the pool. Regardless of the direction the players take, he will be there and waiting. Only stabbing weapons will affect this creature, and because of water resistance and distortion, all attacks are at -2 to hit. The crocodile will try to drag anyone he bites to the bottom of the pool, where drowning will take 2 to 4 rounds. Only cumulative hits of 10 or more points of damage will cause the crocodile to release his hold and attack another victim. Meanwhile, he may still attack opponents with his tail in an arc of 180 degrees behind him. Treasures: none of these monsters has anything of value. D. Doorway. You note that the four doors appear identical. Each is of polished wood about 6 feet wide and 12 feet high. These portals appear very well made. Each has brass hinges and a great level of some sort which probably opens and closes it. Each door does, in fact, open easily by pressure on the door level. The hinges are well oiled, and the door swings open to allow entry to Chapter 4: The Woods of Trees and Giant Fungi. As soon as any character passes through the doorway, the door closes. If there are more than 4 members in the party, 2 or more must pass through each of the remaining portals. Once passed through, the door closes and is magically held for a period of 4 hours. During this time, its armor class is -1 and will take 1000 HP of damage. These doors are held fast from the other side as well. The party is committed once they all go through or once all the doors are closed. If any party member remains behind, the hall will return to its original form, View 1, and the table, key, and other items will reappear. Chapter 3: The Tiny Garden. If the characters have discovered the effects of the flagon contents and the loaf, and if they have used the key to open the door, the DM should read the following passage. The area beyond the small portal is a perfect garden in miniature. There are grassy places, beds of flowers and plants, shrubberies and hedges, all of which are trimmed neatly into geometric shapes. A pathway leads from the doorway towards a pool and fountain whose sparkling water shoots high into the air and tinkles merely into the basin beneath. There are interesting sparkles along the pathway, rather as if gems were reflecting sunlight. If the party uses the potion to shrink, they will be able to enter this place, but all of their possessions will have to be left behind except any miniature items they manage to gain while floating down the shaft. If they decide to look elsewhere, then the strange transformation of Hall, C 2, the long halt changed view, takes place, and they do not have any option to enter this area until they have crossed the Pool of Tears, the woods of trees and giant fungi, found the mushroom that will cause growth and diminution, and located the entry to the garden. A. Pathway. You are on the gravel pathway leading towards a beautiful flower bed that surrounds a fountain and pool. If the party looks, they will each find 1 to 4 gems of what seems to be base 100 gold pieces size along the pathway. As these stones will not get larger by any means except a wish or similar magic, their actual value is 1 copper piece each. No increase in value is possible, for they are basically chips, not faceted gems. B. Onyx Fountain and Pool. A statue of a large human like form rises from the pool. It carries a dolphin in each arm, and 4 seahorses surround the statue. The dolphins and seahorses all spurt jets of water from their mouths, the former upwards about 10 feet, the latter outwards about half that distance. The pool is lozenge shaped, about 20 feet in width and 30 feet long. There are water lilies growing in the pool and gold colored fish swimming among their stems. Grassy tufts and rows of nodding flowers lie between you and the fountain. Low shrubs decorate the edge of the raised onyx pool basin. There is nothing unusual here, and none of the plants or fish are dangerous or valuable. This is simply a time wasting area. You should detail flowers if asked asters, four o'clocks, gladioles, or whatever you fancy. If detect magic is employed, the water of the pool radiates a faint glimmer. That is because it is kept magically cool, clean, and fresh, nice and refreshing for thirst quenching. C. Flower beds and flowering bushes. The flower here are all red or white. There are bleeding hearts, poppies, and many other types. The central shrubs are very strange. Their leaves are a silver color. Their flowers are an unusual shade of vermilion. Beyond the path turns right and left, and the far side is walled off by thick hedges of thorny growth. Silvery stink bush. Perfume of flowers equals a stinking cloud to whoever inhales it. If any character sniffs one of the flowers of this shrub, he or she must save versus spells or be stricken as if in a stinking cloud. By picking and steeping all the blooms of one bush in a skin of water, players may create an infusion that, when released, will generate a cloud of vapors equally a stinking cloud spell, the area of effect being exactly the same, but generation requiring emptying the water skin. If this is discovered, the party should be able to convert 1 water skin per bush to this magical liquid. Inspection of a flower will reveal a sticky sap that can be thinned with water to create a small puff of noxious vapor. D. Flower banked grotto. Tail hedge plants and ranks of flowering growths seclude this place from everything except the blue sky above. Rocks jut from the ground and form a backdrop for a tiny waterfall that fills a shallow basin in which lotus grow. Around the basin edge are pretty stone formations and soft, low flowering plants. Comfortable benches of stone are placed to permit full view of this beautiful spot. As the water falls down the surface of the rocks, it undergoes a brief magical change. At its beginning, it is merely water, and when it falls into the pool, it becomes normal once more. If taken during the course of its fall, however, the liquid is magical. A draught of 1 pint volume will have some potion like effect. To determine the results, use the table below. Note that the potion miscibility table, Dungeon Master's Guide, page 119, must be used if more than one such drink is taken. Storage of the liquid in any sort of container will cause it to lose all of its magical properties instantly. Die roll and magical effects. 1. Baldness. Hair will regrow naturally in time. 2. Color change. Any bright color covers skin for 7 to 12 turns. 3. Diminution, as the potion of the same name. 4. Divisibility, can become two exact duplicates for 7 to 12 rounds. 5. Dragonfly control, ability to control normal insects of this sort for 7 to 12 turns. 6. Gaseous form, as the potion of the same name. 7. Gaseousness, belching for 7 to 12 hours. 8. Giant feet, feet grow 1 feet or more in length for 7 to 12 rounds. 9. Growth, as the potion of the same name. 10. Hairiness, all hair grows longer, thicker, and quite bristle, remaining until trimmed or shaved. 11. Human controlled, the speech of any human will act as suggestion spell for 7 to 12 turns. 12. Invisibility to self, unable to see any part of self or possessions for 7 to 12 rounds. 13. Levity, overcome by urge to be witty, tell jokes and puns, and laugh at all others for 7 to 12 rounds. 14. Filtry of loaf, sit with feet up or lie around 7 to 12 turns. 15. Plumpness, immediate weight gain of 21 to 30% for 7 to 12 turns. 16. Spud, tuberous growth pops out of ear every round for 7 to 12 rounds. 17. Super hedonism, relax, smell flowers, enjoy scene, and seek pleasure for 7 to 12 turns. 18. Sweat water, perspire for freely for 7 to 12 rounds and must drink 1 to 4 quarts liquid thereafter. 19. Water breath, must inhale water for 7 to 12 rounds. 20. Yodeling, overcome with the desire to climb atop anything and yodel as loudly as possible for 7 to 12 turns. E. Mosses and ferns. This quiet little niche is exceptionally inviting. It seems to be made for relaxing. The banks of moss are soft, the ferns and sweet smelling herbs nearby make the air most pleasant. A few small butterflies flutter about, and dragonflies of all hues dart here and there. The place is quite harmless, in fact. It is actually very beneficial for those who spend time laying on the moss. For each round of such rest, the character will regain 1 to 4 lost hit points, 2 hours will restore bodily functions and form to normal, 3 hours or more will enable a character to speak with plants for a similar amount of time, i.e., 3 hours rest gives 3 hours ability, 4 hours rest gives 4 hours ability, etc. F. Wildflower Garden. This section of the place is given over to natural flowers and shrubs. Although artfully arranged and pleasing to the eye, the garden still appears as if it could be found on a walk through the woodlands. Some unusually tall phlox surround what seems to be a cup shaped herb with a leaf that shades the cap atop its stem. Jack in the pulpit. As soon as the party comes near enough to note that this plant has a small man like figure in it, about 20 feet distance or so, it will begin to speak to the party. Each member must save versus spells or else stand and listen to the sermon of the plant. It profounds that all should become neutral in alignment, thus beginning to show proper respect for plants. Each round any character stands and listens, he or she must roll 2d20. Any roll that exceeds the character's wisdom score indicates the jack in the pulpit has beguiled the individual into such an alignment change, with appropriate consequences. See Dungeon Master's Guide, page 25, for a detailed explanation of these consequences. If those who make their saving throws attempt to disrupt the plant's speech, or if they attempt to drag their associates away, the jack in the pulpit will call for aid, and it will appear the next round. 2. Snapdragons. These two animated plants will come from either side of the area and immediately attack. Each has two biting attacks with its petal like mouth. If both of these plants are slain, the jack in the pulpit will condemn the party as murderers, but will do nothing else. The jack in the pulpit also has its own guards in case if it is physically attacked. Players can observe that there are four thistles growing near the base of the plant. 4 bull thistles. Any attack upon the jack in the pulpit will cause the bull thistles to rush to fight the attackers. Each plant strikes twice with spiked leaves and once with its whip like thorny stalk. This combat will also bring the snapdragons into the fight. In this case, the jack in the pulpit will attempt to sneak away into the growth around either area E above. Treasure. Beneath the roots of the jack in the pulpit is a miniature, even for this place, iron chest. It is locked and can only be opened by magical means or by lock picking. Inside its lid is a command word that will cause it to become normal size. Note that it is quite small in human terms, sufficient to hold 100 coins. Inside are a spare key and 90 platinum pieces, very tiny until magically enlarged by the magic chest. Anything inside this container will shrink or grow as the chest does. G. Marble statue. This work is odd because it is a likeness of a rabbit. Its man sized form is evidently clad in some form of sleeveless jack, gloves, and low boots. Clover like flowers of purple and white grow in a low border all along this path, while taller flowers and flowering shrubs screen it from the rest of the garden. The low slab of polished granite upon which the statue rests is about 3 feet square and 1/3 as high. Chaldus, the senile archmage. Childus the Archmage wears a vest with 8 pockets that hold the components of his spells. All of the pockets are magical, for each can hold as much as a small sack. Childus wears boots of speed, and on his hands are gauntlets of dexterity. As these are items of his own fabrication, they shrink or grow according to the need of the wearer, as does the vest. Being native to the plane, Childers can remain diminutive even in growth areas. He's senile and most of the time he travels around in the form of a white rabbit. He desires no contact with strangers, and so he has avoided the party, going as far as to use the statue spell upon himself just now to fool them. If he is threatened or molested, the confused old fellow will react by casting one of the following spells at the party or upon himself, as is logical, for Chaldus isn't that senile. Die roll and spell casting. 1. Burning Hands. 2. Magic Missile. 3. Ventriloquism. 4. Darkness. 5. Invisibility. 6. Mirror Image. 7. Blink. 8. Dispel Magic. 9. Slow. 10. Fumble. 11. Distance Distortion. 12. Wall of Force. 13. Bigby's Forceful Hand. 14. Repulsion. 15. Power Word Stun. 16. Reverse Gravity. 17. Maze. 18. Polymorph any object. Or 19 to 20. Time Stop. If a number rolled has all spells used, move to the next higher number. The Archmage will always attempt to escape rather than fight, and even when an opponent is powerless, the strange fellow will simply use the opportunity to slip away. If he meets the party at a later time, and if the circumstances warrant, he will be cordial and associate freely with them, such as in the croquet ground area. However, he will certainly testify against the party if they were hostile towards him at any time. If they detect him while he is under the guise of the statue spell, Charles will A. If molested, use an attack spell, then spell to aid his escape, or B. If the party is not trying to harm him, simply use a spell that will enable him to escape. H. Tunnel. The path here is close to the thick thorny hedges, and it appears to pass through a small tunnel that seems to be dug through a ridge. The tunnel is arched and walled in a fieldstone and has gravel path, grass and sunlight as the other end indicates that it leads into a park or similar place. If the party goes this way, move to Chapter 4, the Woods of Trees and Giant Fungi. They will enter at Area A, North Center. As they step out of the passageway, they will shoot up to what is their normal size, and the miniature items will fall away, now useless. Return to the area of Chapter 3, the Tiny Garden, is possible only by way of Chapter 2, the Long Room, or else by finding magical means of returning to 1/10 normal size again. I. Pick one of the descriptions first. Ancient withered oak tree. This huge trunked tree has seen many seasons. Its limbs now bear few leaves. It has grown to divide the path to left and right. Or, giant tree man. What you first thought was a tree of some sort is obviously a Trent from this distance. It solemnly regards your party, making neither hostile nor friendly move. It seems to be waiting for your move. Two hangman trees. As soon as three victims are within range, each tree will drop three of its noose like vines to lasso the prey and haul it up into the stomach cavity of its trunk. Treasure. As both of these carnivorous plants have been in the same location for several years, there are numerous items of interest. Roll 2 to 8 times for each tree's treasure using the table included in Chapter 1, the Endless Shaft. Only metal items will be there, of course. To this list, add 5 to 20 base 100 GP gems. When the party leaves this area, all the treasure will be miniature as previously explained. Gems will be 1 copper piece chips, all magic items too small for even the smallest halfling. J. Heavy brass bound door. The strange sight of a paneled wall that seems to grow out of the ground no more surprises you in this place than does the fact that it has a large door in its center. It has a brass door lever, and there seems to be no lock on it. This reverse door leads back to Chapter 2, the Long Hall, first view. As soon as the party enters and shuts the door, the hall changes to its changed view aspect, and the small door is gone. Once again, gear stashed will remain unharmed, although when the rubbish pile disappears, it will be in plain sight. K. Grassy lawn. The gravel pathways of the garden area give way to lawn here. The hedges to either hand fall away to allow a widening vista of green grass. There are some buildings and trees set in the middle of the lawn. L. Orchid. The small, well pruned trees appear to be of a common fruit variety apple, cherry, pear, plum, and a lone gulda tree in the center of the orchid. Oddly, each tree seems to bear ripe fruit. This fruit is not magical. Although it took magic to cause all trees to produce the same time, while it is nutritious, no fruit has any effect outside of those normal to its kind, i.e., good tasting and filling. M. Cottage. This thatched dwelling is small and well kept, but unremarkable. The doorway faces the orchard. There are few small round windows, and it appears that there is a loft above the main story, for there is a diamond shaped window there. Two huge lizard men. These two huge fellows are Bill and Mitch, both faithful servants of the Archmage Charles. If he is in danger, they will come to his call, ready to fight to the death. If the party enters their cottage, the two will not attack immediately, but they will be on their guard. At the first opportunity, one will slip away to inform his master of what is happening. Interior of the cottage. The entire first floor is some 3 feet below ground level. Steps from the doorway lead down into this sunken area. It is filled with warm water, and here the lizard men rest and sleep. A flight of stone stairs along the upper wall of the cottage leads into the low loft area, where miscellaneous hems are stored. N. Second cottage. This dwelling is narrower and a bit longer than the one nearby, but otherwise it looks quite similar. It has a thatched roof and its entrance faces the orchard. Its small, dusty windows are also round, even the one set above the door, which evidently looks out from the loft. Two large porcupines. These two large fellows are unlike their giant cousins in many ways. They have prehensile forepaws, they have a fair intelligence, and they are only 5 feet or so tall. They are Pat and Gil, loyal servants of the Archmage. They will immediately answer a call for help or otherwise obey Charldus. If their cottage is entered, they will be distant but will attack only if molested, or if they know that their master has been harmed by the party. Interior of the cottage. The entire ground floor of the place is filled with leaves, bark, and sticks. The floor is covered to a depth of 2 feet, and there are two separate mounds of stuff at least 4 feet above the general level. A flight of stone steps leads to the loft. The upper floor has a scattering of miscellaneous items, odd tools, some large logs, and nothing else. It appears that there is nothing of value in the cottage. Treasure? There is no treasure here. Oh, large house with split shack roof. On the far side of the orchard is a large, very comfortable looking house. It has two full stories, a front porch, bottle glass windows, and several tall chimneys above its shack roof. There are two entrances, one from the front porch, another visible from the area by which you first entered. If the players choose to enter the house, the DM should continue with the following interior description. The place seems to be well, if oddly furnished. There is such a clutter of chairs, sofas, tables, shelves, cabinets, and dressers that it takes a few moments to take in the entire scene. This place is obviously lived in. There are carpets on the floor, paintings and pictures of all sorts on the walls. You note a flight of steps leading up to the floor above. There are several canes and walking sticks near the door. Reading the above passage should take enough time so that the complicated trap in this house may be triggered. The DM should continue by reading the following passage. The interior is bare stone. It is closing slowly inwards, relentlessly. It appears to be moving at a rate about 4 feet per round, so that in 10 rounds you will be crushed to jelly. This is Charles' home, actually only a stone rectangle some 40 feet times 50 feet. It has two doors, but all the rest is a permanent illusion placed over the area by the Archmage in order to trap intruders. As soon as the place is entered, a trap begins to spring. After 2 rounds, the doors slam shut and disappear. 1 round later, the sides and roof seem to be closing in. That is because the whole place is shrinking magically. The rate is effectively 4 feet per round, so that in 10 rounds, all inside will be crushed to death unless they have means of escape or some way to stop the place from growing smaller. Dispel magic or enlarge will cancel the shrinking. An interior wall, iron or stone, will cause the process to halt. Rock to mud, stone shape, or stone to flesh will cause a hole in the wall and enable escape. Otherwise, only a limited wish, alter reality, or wish will save the victims from their fate. If the party succeeds in stopping the shrinking of the place, a door will reappear where they entered and they can leave. P. Berry bushes and covered well. A thick circle of currant, raspberry, gooseberry, and blackberry bushes surround a quaint well. Protected by a peaked roof, the well has the usual windlass complete with rope and oaken bucket. It is about 4 feet in diameter and water can be seen about 20 feet or so down. A sampling of the liquid proves to be cool, clear, and refreshing. The berry bushes all bear fruit, and all the fruit is quite normal. There is no way to climb down the sides of the well except the usual means employed by thieves and their like. However, in this area, this is the actual dwelling place of Chaldus. There is a secret trapdoor protected by a symbol of discord between the raspberry bushes and the blackberries. Steep, narrow stone steps lead down about 15 feet to a small chamber below. It contains a small cot, workbench, and ingredients for casting spells, all in a clutter of papers, packets, jars, boxes, vials, bottles, flasks, tins, and so forth. Also, there are all 9 of Chaldos's spell books. Each is protected by a fire trap spell that does 21 to 24 points of damage. In addition to the spells that Charles is supposed to know at this time, the 9 tomes also contain the following: Enlarge, Shocking Grasp, Spider Climb, Fire Trap, Phantasmal Force, Polymorph Self, Statue, Symbol of Discord, and Permanent. Some rough edges in the books indicate that some of the pages have been torn out, undoubtedly a sign of the senility that has overtaken poor Chaldus. In addition, there is a book marked Cantrips, but all of its pages are blank or contain odd notes on some absolutely weird spell research, parody to gold or something like that. No amount of trying will make cantrips appear on the pages, for they have been erased totally and irreversibly. Treasure. Other than the spell books, one drawer has a few coins, 2 to 8 of each sort, tossed into it. There are some old robes hanging from a peg. All are just ordinary garments. It is evident that Chardus lives a rather humble existence. Special note on the hedge. It is certain that most players will desire to find what lies beyond the hedge. Discourage this by explaining that the growth is very thick, and beyond its neat and trim greenery lie impenetrable briars and thorns. Considering that spells that would allow passage over, through, or beyond the hedge will not work in Dungeonland. The hint should be obvious, but players will probably ignore it in the true spirit of adventurous explorers. Several turns of determined hacking and chopping will obviously clear away a section of the hedge and some of the brambles beyond. Allow the party to make a path about 10 feet wide and as deep in a turn. Then, as they work on the next section, have one member notice that the hedge, which they just finished chopping to bits, is now growing again. You see green shoots pushing their way up from the ground where the hedge shrubbery you just cut down grew. These shoots are growing upwards before your very eyes, adding height and sprouting leaves at the most unnatural rate. Why, in a single round, you can observe that the stuff is almost a foot tall already, and it looks more robust than what you chopped down. There are some swellings in the earth where you just finished cutting down briars, thorns, and brambles, too. You can see that it is a hopeless task, for the stuff will grow faster than it can be cut. Reading the passage above should end attempts to move beyond the hedge. Key to fungi in Map 4. Common mushroom. Any pale color with red, orange, brown, yellow, and gray, most common. These fungi are fairly tasty and quite nutritious. Death Angel. White, gray white, mere touch causes a need to save versus poison at +2 or die. Ingestion requires a like save at -4. Cup fungi, pale yellow, yellow, yellow orange. The inverted top of this fungus contains an acidic fluid. Any player who jottles or pulls the growth will spill it, receiving 5 to 20 points of damage. Those who stand within a 3 feet radius of that individual will suffer 1 to 10 points of damage. Giant puffball, pale tan, tan, yellowish white. Each globe can direct what equals to a double strength gust of wind at any creature who comes closer than 10 feet. If struck or punctured, these fungi will explode, inflicting 3 to 30 points of damage to all within a 10-foot radius. Horsetail. Red brown, This fungi sways and swishes menacingly, but it is actually nourishing. It doubles natural recovery of its hit points on the day it is ingested, and a large bite effectively allows double movement speed for one full turn, 10 rounds. It spoils if players attempt to store it and loses its beneficial properties. Toadstool. Purple, purplish brown, brown green, green, blue green, violet. This type of fungi will turn into a giant toad. Chapter 4. The Woods of Trees and Giant Fungi. Regardless of which way the party enters, they will eventually see the nature of the place they are in. The blue sky is spotted by only a few clouds. The woodland is cool, and in the open, the sun is hot. A few birds call in the distance. A few insects can be seen, many heard. This could be countryside anywhere, except for the numbers of strange fungi scattered about, of which there are all sorts: yellow, yellowish, tan, purple, brown, violet, white, red to pink, blue, and even green. Some have tall caps, some are flat, some hemispherical. There are round ones and ones with inverted tops. Some have thick stems and some have thin. A. Steep, grassy embankment and small tunnel. By getting on hands and knees, you can peer down this passageway. It is 1 feet wide and about half as high, with a sandy floor and walls of small stones fitted closely together. There seems to be a sunny place beyond, for you observe golden light on fine, small grass and what appears to be miniature flowers and shrubs. If the party has just come from Chapter 3, the tiny garden, they will know what they are seeing. Those who bypass the area will be able to guess anyway. Note that there is no way to get to the area beyond except through the small door in Chapter 2, the long hall. B. Paneled wall lined with 4 doors. In this weird place, the sight of a wall set in the ground between 2 trees running some 100 feet length and having 4 great doors in it is hardly noteworthy. You see trees to the front of you as well as to either hand. Looking back through these doors is virtually impossible, for they are magically closed. After 4 hours, they are the entry to Chapter 2, the long hall, changed view. C. Huge blue mushroom. This thick stemmed fungus is larger than any of the others you have seen. Its cap is oddly lumpy, only about 5 feet off the ground at its edges, and rising as high as 9 feet or more on some of its bumps. If the party comes within 30 feet or so, read on. Suddenly, the top of the blue fungus moves. There appears to be some blue creature atop a flat capped mushroom. In fact, you can tell that it is a large caterpillar like creature, curled comfortably in a circle. It encircles a brass urn of some sort, which has a strange stem that the monster bites occasionally. Thereafter, the creature seems to grimace and send forth a small cloud of opalescent smoke. Perhaps it's a dragon worm. The Bahir Viringe. Viringe, being especially old, wise, and crafty, has learned the power of change self so as to appear as a relatively harmless creature, such as a giant caterpillar or inchworm. The brass hookah he smokes also has magical property, the dwemer of which only Viringe can master. Each time he puffs forth a ring of smoke, it has a special property. Roll a d6 to determine which smoke ring is blown first. Die roll and results. 1. Touch turns smoke ring to gem set necklace worth 2,000 to 8,000 gold pieces. 2. Contact with a solid substance turns smoke ring into a clinging, stinking cloud of 10 feet cubic size. 3. Contact with a solid substance turns smoke ring into a rope of entanglement, which lasts for 6 rounds. 4. Touching the smoke ring causes electrical discharge damage of 20 points similar to a shocking grasp. 5. Contact with a solid substance turns smoke ring into a poisonous snake. 6. Touching the smoke ring causes it to become a fog cloud of 10 feet cubic size, which lasts for 6 rounds. Being very clever and most evil, Vernage will play the role as an affected but harmless caterpillar to the hilt. When he has his audience properly in his spell, he will breathe out a smoke ring of the first sort, asking one player of the party to catch it. If one does, then he will quickly puff as many as five or more out. As each must be blown once before one number can be repeated, the five will follow in sequence, of course. If necessary, the DM should repeat this process. Each ring will be puffed out at a different character. The range of a smoke ring is 10 feet. One will travel but slowly, so they are easily avoided if a character so attempts, there being but a 1 in 20 chance of accidental contact when trying to avoid a puff of smoke. A wind of any sort, including a gust of wind spell, will demolish a smoke ring and ruin its dwemer. A ring of smoke loses all magical properties after exceeding its 10 feet range. If no character catches the initial smoke ring, the Behir will continue to converse in a lazy and obtuse fashion, meanwhile puffing the next five rings of smoke upwards, so that he can again offer the first as a lure. If this second attempt fails, he will then puff out the next five in rapid succession, one per segment. This will extinguish the hookah. Vernage will then attack on the following round by breathing lightning at the one he deems most powerful in the party, and deliver a bite at the next most powerful member. Thereafter, the Behir will melee two characters, choosing those already wounded in favor of others. He will bite at one while claw attacking after constricting the second. After nine such rounds of melee, he will again use his breath weapon to discharge a bolt of electrical energy. Treasure. The only worthwhile treasure is the huge blue fungus upon which Vernage rests. The right side causes growth, the left diminution. A large bite causes a 50% increase or decrease in size. After one day, the efficiency of the fungus dwemer fades, so that a bite is but half as effective, 25% increase or decrease in size. If sun-dried for about 8 hours, the mushroom pieces will remain at this lower potency level. If not so cured, they will spoil in 2 days. The hookah is of no value except to a behir. D. Very large, thick-limbed tree. While all of the trees in this wooded area are quite large and old, this specimen appears to be ancient. It has great limbs jutting out almost parallel to the ground. The Smilodon cat. Each turn that any member of the party is within 20 feet of a tree marked by D on the map, there's a 50% chance that the Smilodon cat will appear there. This monster appears to be a huge domestic cat, but his long fangs and bobtail might give the observer pause. He is very intelligent and can speak the common tongue fluently. He can become ethereal on any round he desires, although he cannot then attack. In this state, he can use his invisibility to cloak all of himself or any portion of himself so as to show a tail, head, or mouth only. Of course, the power of invisibility can be used alone, but as with etherealness, it requires a round with no attacking to use. It is possible, however, for the animal to become visible and attack in the same round. The Smilodon cat can also seem to disappear instantly by the use of his Dimension Door ability, a power that will not work for creatures from outside this special plane. The monster can thus move to any other D-designed tree on the map, or to Area C in Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland. While in most other ways this creature conforms to the characteristics of a saber-toothed tiger, his behavior is unique. The beast is hungry, so he will seek to kill and devour a party member if possible. As he is intelligent, however, he will not fight uselessly, but will employ his magical powers to shadow the group, seeking to pick off someone. Meanwhile, he will not lose an opportunity to converse with one or more characters to learn about their strengths and weaknesses, to find out what they are doing in the area, or simply to lull them into a state where attack will be easier. If it appears that the prey is escaping, the creature will be more bold in attacking, taking considerable damage in order to gain a choice meal. If below 25 hit points, or if the party is heading up the embankment towards Area F of the map, the cat will dimension door to his home at Area C of Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland. Treasure. Although the Smilodon cat has no normal treasure, his whiskers are magical. If a character holds one whisker, he or she is able to dimension door just as if he or she had cast a spell of the same name. However, this will destroy the whisker. The cat has a total of 20 usable whiskers. E. Paneled wall lined with four doors. The wall on this side appears just as it did from the other 4B above. The doors are held shut magically for 4 hours after use. See Chapter 2, The Long Hall, Area D. If not so closed, they can be opened. Upon opening one of the doors, you can see a long paneled hallway, similar to the one you have seen previously. It is easily over 100 feet long and about half as wide. At its far end, you can dimly discern what appears to be a door. Entering this far door will place the party at Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland, Area H. F. Steep, grassy embankment. It is obvious now that the area you have just left is a glen. From this higher elevation, you note that an unbroken line of thick forest stretches before you. It looks foreboding, but a faint, winding path leads from where you stand into the trees, some 100 feet distant. Special note on map edges. As can be observed from the map of Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland, the area of trees and fungi is surrounded by heavy forest. Discourage straying from the map by noting how hard it is to move in the forest, by stating how tiring it is or how slow it is. After a few yards, explain that the party has come to a very steep rock wall, a natural obstacle that will pose great difficulties to all except skilled climbers. Should the party somehow manage to overcome this rampart, then they will be moved to Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland. Southward progress must be completely discouraged. Use the bramble hedge from above if necessary. Otherwise, players will be free to move through the forest to whatever destiny they encounter, including the land beyond the magic mirror. Be certain to use the random encounter table for forest movement. Travel is at 3 hexes per hour, with 1 hour of rest for every 3 hexes traveled. The pathway from the embankment through the forest to Area A in Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland, allows easy walking, although it is only wide enough for one person at a time. Wandering Monster Table. Die roll and monster encountered. 1. 1 Dragony. 2 to 3. 1 giant poisonous snake. 4 to 5. 2 giant phase spiders. 6 to 8. 2 stag beetles. And 9 to 10. 3 giant lizards. Thank you for listening to this audiobook of Dungeonland, specifically chapters 1 to 4. I hope you enjoyed and have a great day. Best regards, Reed.